um, that kind of time of my life is really from like I would say 17 to like 23, 24 years old is I was operating and I was doing the right things, but I just had a little bit of counter intention, in
Mm.
my life. And to kind of start from the beginning, I come from a 1 square mile town. It's called Parker, Arizona. It's in the middle of the desert. It's like I said, 1 square mile. You're either a farmer or you're in some kind of construction. There's really not a whole lot of opportunity, unless you're in a couple of those industries. A lot of small towns, you're not brought up around like very wealthy people, either. I would say it's very, middle class, below middle class. It's on an Indian tribal reservation. So life just kind of happens by default there,
Mm.
unless you make a real decision to be something different, and growing up, I would say we were middle class people. My father worked as a police officer, so he had a government job, very consistent paycheck, great health benefits. Looking back, like those were the things that like made us, right? We're like, oh, dad's got money, we got great health insurance, which are those are all like things to be very thankful and grateful for. But my mom was a nail technician. She actually ended up working her way to owning her own business. So we do have some entrepreneurial spirit, in the household. But I would say, collectively between, my father and my mother, as a household, we maybe brought in 80 to $90,000 a year, like probably at most.
Mhm.
And like myself and a lot of other teenagers, my parents were split up. We lived in different households. Obviously, that splitting up has a lot to do with the upbringing and the situations that you kind of get yourself into. So
Yeah.
we were very middle class. We never went without.
Right.
There was always food in the fridge. Like everything was good. But with that becomes, you kind of have some limiting beliefs,
Mhm.
you know, that you get when things like that. And so I always knew I wanted more, right? I wanted to do
Right.
more. Where I lived was an intersection from like where I lived is right on the border of California and Arizona.
Mhm.
And where I lived was in a mobile home out on a farm, and there was one main highway that would go into town and then into the river, which is where a lot of people would go to come and hang out. And so pretty much every like starting Thursday morning, there'd be like trucks and trailers and RVs and boats and quads and like just all these really expensive things that would drive past my house every single day. And it was the Californians coming in to vacation in my hometown. And so I'd always been inspired, like, man, I want to be rich. I want to have money. I want to have these cool things. Um, but I didn't have the vehicle to get there, So as a
Right.
teenager, yeah, as a teenager, I started working very early. I started working at 14 years old. I was working on a farm for one of a person I went to school with. Her family owned a farm, and I was just a 14-year-old that wanted to make money, you know. And we're I say I'm a third generation Escorza in the United States.
Right.
My grandfather came when he was 29 years old, came to Parker, illegally, worked as a farm worker, eventually did the right thing to have his cards and everything to be here. And then my father, was born. Well, it was at the stage where my grandfather would send my grandmother back to Mexico to have children because he was like, I'm just here to work and then be done.
Mm. Yeah.
So, but he wanted his kids to be citizens. So she'd go back to Mexico, have my father, my uncle, my aunt, and then come back to the States. And so I'm very much third generation. When my father made the decision to become a cop, that was like he was like the best that the Escorza had ever done.
Right.
If that makes sense. We went from
Yeah.
farm worker to okay, and then his little brother, my uncle, became an FBI agent,
Wow.
right? And so that was like the pinnacle of the Escortas. They were like, dude, they went from farm worker to like government job. And so I came in. I always had great work ethic just from having parents and grandparents as an example. And I made it through school. I was not a great student. I was like far from a great student. It's not that I
Right.
was, dumb or not smart. It's just the tools that we were given, and the way we learned in school just like wasn't for me, you know. um, 14, 15, 16, 17 years old, I was working on the farm. I would literally go do a man's job and make a man's paycheck, and I would get done with it and I'd be like, man, I learned way more on the farm, and definitely like made more than my teachers. um I wasn't going to school, but I knew like, hey, you have to go to school, like you can't drop out of school. Like
Sure.
that was never a thing on my mind. And so I made it through high school, and I'll be honest, I had probably one of the lowest GPAs that you could pass with, right?
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you have a guess of what that is, but it starts with a 1 and ends with an 8. It's called 1.8,
Wow.
right? That's pretty low, right? That's pretty
I
low.
I think so. I've never been to school, so I wouldn't know. But I think from what I've heard, that would be low.
That's awesome. And you know what? Here's a good example of that. You're like, oh, I've never really been to school. So 1.8, 2.8, 4.0, it's irrelevant,
Right.
right? Like it's who you are and what you can really do. It's kind of what
Yeah.
I figured out. So I graduated high school barely. I sold my economics teacher on the idea that I needed to walk. And so I did what I did and I passed, right? So I ended up getting through it in school. In our family, it was you either go to school or you go to the military. And my brother and sister had already gone the military route, and I was a wild kid, and I loved wakeboarding, loved hanging out on the river. And so I'm like, not going to the military. I went to school, right? I went to a community college for, let's be honest, a whole semester before I came back on winter break. And I told my dad, I said, hey dad, I love what you're doing for me. You're spending this money for me to go to school. Like it's been great, but I'm not dedicated to it. I'm not taking it serious. And I knew the value of money, so I said, I'm not going to waste your money.
Right.
I'm not going to waste your money. I'm just going to put school, I'm like, to the side. And I had $600 to my name after working for that next summer, and I moved to Phoenix. And I talked to my parents. I said, hey, mom, dad, I've got a little bit of money. I have a friend that lives in a part of Phoenix. He's got a couch. He says I can go stay with him for as long as I need to try to find a job.
Mm.
And so they said, all right, well, I'm 19 years old now at the time. They said, just go do whatever you feel like you need to do. And so
Right.
that's what I did. So I got into the marketplace. I moved to Phoenix, stayed on my friend's couch. Within the first week of being in Phoenix, I had found a job. I literally got to Phoenix, and right across the street from the apartment that we were staying in, there was like a Home Depot, a Bed Bath and Beyond, Staples, a couple of like big corporate stores, And I
Yeah.
just said, I need to get on a payroll. I need to get on somebody's payroll. And so I
Right.
walked to every one of them and asked to fill out an application. Luckily, it was like the back to school season, July going into August. So they were looking for people. And I ended up finding a job at um, the Staples store there. And one thing I'll just kind of share, and this is one thing that really helped me succeed, was follow up, right?
Mm.
Was how to follow up with somebody, and especially when you really want something. And I had put in all these applications, and I kind of narrowed down. I'm like, man, out of all these places, like I'd probably want to go work at Staples, like I could probably like sell some computers or like learn about that. Still wasn't really in sales. I'd been selling for a long time, but didn't really know about sales.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
so I had walked in and met with the manager, and I said, hey, my name is Mike, and I put in an application, and I just want to see, have you gotten it? And he says, oh, well, it takes a couple of days usually to go through the process. And so the next day I come back. Hey, Jason, it's Mike. Did you get my application? You came in here yesterday, right? Yeah, I did. Usually takes a day or so, 2 days. Come in the next day. Oh, no, I haven't received it. Haven't seen it. Sorry, been tied up. I go in the next day. So going 4 days in a row, right? This guy's kind of persistent, you know,
Yeah.
and going 4 days in a row and say, Jason, it's me, just looking to see if you have the application yet. He says, what is your name? Then my name is Mike Escorza. He says, hang on, goes back into his office and he says, Mike, let me get your number. I haven't seen your application, but like you've shown up every single day. So let me get your number. I'm going to call you. Can you come back here around this time tomorrow? I said, absolutely. Gets my number, calls me later in the afternoon. Hey, we found your application. Can you still come in? I go in the next day, I secure a job, and now I'm on a payroll, right?
There you go.
So that's really what got me started. What I say, I came to Phoenix and I just got in the marketplace.
That's incredible.
Yeah, so it was a lot of follow-up, a lot of persistence, you know what I mean? Really, like I needed something to happen and I just didn't quit on it. And so, kind of going into the next step from there, I got into a job and then, I knew that wasn't the end. I was making $8 an hour. I was making $8 an hour and it was part-time. I knew that, hey, I'm on a payroll, but there's something else. There's more to this game that we're playing right now. And so, of course, I got back into the marketplace and started looking and searching jobs.
Yeah.
And by grace and fortune and just persistence, I had found a job in a ski shop that was here in Phoenix, and I think it paid $1.50 more, and it was me working up my own ladder of pay grade, of jobs, of things I wanted to do. And so I took it. And that's really where a lot of things started happening for me. I started meeting new people in the industry. I started meeting reps, vendors that would come in, and I just kind of started befriending them. Hey, this is who I am. This is what we do. And that's kind of how, things got started. Fast forward, I ended up getting tied in with some people that were reps for a company, and they happened to leave their company, and this particular person went into the boat industry, and he called me and said, hey, Mike, I know these guys in Phoenix. I'm taking over their West Coast account. You have a background in retail stores. They don't have a retail store yet. I'd like you to meet them. I think you'd be a good fit. And so network, right? Somebody
Yeah.
I had met and kept in close to me, had left his position, found an opportunity with somebody else. I was on top of his mind. He called me. And so that facilitated the last 9 years of my life. It was really, really cool. I ended up meeting with these guys and we started a large boat dealership. We were doing a couple $1 million in years in sales when I got there. Last year we did about 37 million.
Wow, congrats. That's
Thank
incredible.
you so much. Yeah, thank you so much. I was 21 years old. The owner was 31 years old. So we were very young people with just a dream and a little bit of money, and we grew it and scaled it. And so I guess to, hindsight's always 2020, but if I
Sure.
could tell myself a couple things is in what would have helped me faster, because by the time I turned 24, I found Grant Cardone, who yourself, my dad,
Yeah.
and your dad know. I found Grant at 24, and that's when I tell people that's when I started getting my game on. You know,
Wow.
I was doing these right things, right? Always looking for the next thing that to push me forward to help myself grow, but I didn't really know what I was doing. I just knew that these
Yeah.
were the right things that you needed to do to be successful, to not be stagnant. And so if I could go back, I would find direction. I would find direction faster, and I would find a mentor sooner,
Hmm.
right? So from
Yeah.
21 to 24, these 3 years, I was moving in the right direction, but I wasn't living intentional.
Sure.
I was kind of living by default and then using these things that I learned and read about and use them. So find direction and live intentional. And that's in all areas of my life. Being a wild kid from the river, I wasted so much time, and I try to not beat myself up on this. I just, hey,
Yeah.
listen, like, don't think about it. But I wasted so much time um, not being intentional about the things that I was doing.
Hmm.
And for a young person, for me, that was partying.
Hmm.
you know that was partying, that was staying out late, that was the drugs, the alcohol, like the things that can really keep a young person back from going to the next level. And like I said, it's not to say that I wasn't doing the right things, because I was still making more
Yeah.
money and my job positions were being better, but I wasn't being intentional with it. And the same thing could go for the relationships, you know,
Yeah.
the people that you involve yourself with, whether that be boy or girl, but to be very intentional about what you're doing, why you're doing it, and hey, what is the result of what I'm currently doing going to
Definitely.
bring me in the future?
Yeah.
And so I wasted a lot of time doing that. But finding direction in a mentor got me going in the right direction, you
Yeah.
know.
That's so cool.
um, One other thing is, and what I kind of live by this now, is to define purpose and divine purpose,
Oh.
right? So like, there was a moment where I'm like, okay, what are you really doing? Like, what is your purpose on here? And this kind of was a breakthrough for me, because I truly believe that, like, my parents didn't sit down and they were like, hey, we should have Mike. We should have Mike and we should do this, and this is the next step, and then this is a future that we want to create for him. I really think that, like, my parents just had me,
Right.
you know, whether that be an accident or unintentional or intentional or what that was, So I defined my purpose and then discovered my divine purpose.
Mm.
Right. And if you go to the origin of define, origin of divine, define is, hey, the starting place, right? Which is also the definition, which just means that's what it means. And divine is God, godly, or godlike, right? So define my purpose and why I'm here, and then define my divine purpose. Like, what's my godlike purpose here?
Mhm.
Right. And for me, that was sales, learning to start a business, right? And just being successful, living intentional, having the right direction, having the right mentors.
Wow, that's so cool. Thank you so much for telling that is an incredible story. And I think that's really awesome that you're able to persist even at a young age. Because I know a lot of people have the very easy limiting belief of like, oh, I'm too young. They won't take me seriously. I can't go up and talk to people. Like they won't, like no one will listen to me. And I think that's a very real thing that a lot of most people, young people have. And it's so awesome that you're able to be like, I got to do something. I got to get on someone's payroll. I have to go talk to people. I have to get a job. And I think that is so cool. Then you're able to build your network, stay in touch with people. And then obviously you're absolutely crushing it now. So I think that's super awesome. And I think it's very, very inspiring and very telling for other young people who might feel that way.
Thank you. Thank you. That time is, and this is maybe something we can collaborate in the future. And, that 18 to 22, 23 years old is like a really critical time.
Yes.
And there's some people that are like spending that time in school,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe have counter intention about it, maybe just going because they need to go through the process. And
Yeah.
or there's other people that are like myself, like, hey, the school thing didn't work out. So if there's something that we can collaborate with and create a group of people that are like looking for help,
Yeah.
I'd love to be a part of that, because that's
Yeah.
one thing that I've kind of in my goals. And hey, as soon as I can get a business going, I want to help the people that, like, I needed back
Yeah.
then, you
Yeah, I
know?
would love to. Yeah, we should definitely talk about that once we hop off the call or hop off the recording
Absolutely.
because I think that could definitely be, and I can definitely see where I can maybe help out as someone in that age bracket as of currently.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's so awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to spend it with me. I had a blast and I learned so much, and you're such an amazing storyteller. I was so enthralled the entire time. So, is there any
Well,
last
thank you.
thing?
So,
Sorry, yes, keep
yeah,
going.
no, you're good. That's I appreciate everything. One thing I had written down here just on my list is, life is a game and
Mhm.
we're all playing it,
Mhm.
right? So, like,
Yeah.
let's just understand that, dude, we're here for a long time.
Mhm.
Like, we're here for a long time. So take it as a game, like the things that you want, the things that you're gonna get. Like me, myself, and my business now, I'm out of the boat industry, and now I do Cardone sales training full time. And you're
Cool.
gonna experience rejection, humiliation, a lot of no's. But listen, like, it's a game, and we're all here to win it, right?
Yeah, definitely.
The other side of that is is I was just in Park City, and I was kind of with a network of people, and I'd met this guy on the mountain, and we started talking about each other and where we're from and our lives and kind of the cool things we've done. This guy was 55 years old, and a lot of the things I had said that I had done, like just go for fun, and do for fun. He says, man, that's on my bucket list. That's on my bucket list. That's on my bucket list. And I said, dang, man, you've got like a lot of things on your bucket list that are things that just feel normal to me.
Yeah, definitely.
To go out and travel and go on a ski trip, to go skydiving, to play golf, to go surfing, to go mountain biking, to go do all of these things. So don't wait to start checking items off the bucket list. Just start living. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Start doing those things, because listen, in all the madness, when you're trying to like grow, when you're trying to succeed, when you're trying to be better, there's going to
Mhm.
be times where you're like, dude, I like, what am I doing here? I've been doing this consistently for the last 2 or 3 or 4 months. Sometimes you can not see a light at the end. And so you need some of these things to like keep you in the game,
Yeah.
you know, to keep you exciting. Quick example of that was, myself and, one of my old girlfriends, we were very high level, what we call business people, very focused, very driven, like this is the task, this is the target, let's go get it. But you can quickly get burnt out. You know what I mean? Really. And so these things that kept us moving, that kept us going, that kept us excited is, hey, 2 nights a week we would go have dinner,
Oh,
you know,
okay.
and every Sunday we would play golf, no matter what.
Wow.
So like find these little things, these little tasks, activities that keep you excited, keep you in the game.
Definitely. I think that's really great advice. And yeah, you're right. I think taking it as a game and taking life and yourself a little less seriously can help in the world of sales where things can become so hard based off other people's reactions, and handling your own emotions is probably the number one thing that everyone should do, even not even just in sales, but in life in general. Life can be hard. And
Totally.
if you are able to, like, it's something I can get through. It's okay. Just laugh it off a little bit, or have something that you can work towards. I've definitely noticed that even in my life when I've done that, it's helped a lot.
That's right. That's right. Awesome.
Well, thank you so much for the time today. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me. I look forward to connecting with you again. Okay.